Dave and Mackie.
G'day! This is Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mackie. We're on WZZR, exactly where you want us to be. And we're broadcasting from Australia on Revolution Radio, where you can find it on the net at revolution.radio, where it's more than just radio, so jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 316, and if Mackie was on board, he would say 610 and 300. It's on air, online, and on your smart device, so grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed it, Solaris' show, now we come after Solaris, so Solaris' show she was interviewing, and she always has great guests, and her guest today was Dwight Lilly, and they were talking about world events and spirituality. And in the end, they got in some really, really juicy topics that I was listening to, putting some show notes together. And always a great show, class act, love her work. Catch her if you can, anywhere. All right, especially in the archives. And talking about that, it's only $5.95 to get access to all of the archives at Revolution Radio. You do that, it's a monthly cost, and that monthly can be just deducted automatically, or you can pay it. But to avoid disappointment, just have it automatically deduct. That way you're contributing, and guess what you get from it? All of the archives. So not just the current ones, but the previous ones. And yeah, I think they go back like 1 year. So you should have some good times, some good listening time, where you can listen to the shows in your own time. And I think that's really important these days, because it's hard to put a set time down to a set thing. We're so used to, recording stuff for TV now. You just sit down and you go through the recorded shows and you watch those. I'm finding about 50% of the things that I'm doing now on television is actually just watching the recorded shows, because I haven't got time for anything else. Makes sense. Why don't you do the same thing with the radio? When you get back into radio, when you get back to where we were, and that is limiting our input, limiting the things that are influencing us, maybe, yeah? So you can have a whole night on YouTube and not have learnt anything, or just gone around in a big circle, or you've expected to go down a couple of cat videos, funny cat videos, I'm making this up, and then you end up somewhere else. And please don't end up at the flat earth. That's all I say. Anywho, look, Mackie and I, because we live in Australia, and I think wherever you are, you should do the same thing. And that is, we're only the first people after, you have to say, white people invaded Australia and dispersed the Aboriginal and native people from their lands. Yeah, we claimed ownership over something they've always owned. Yeah, and so the reason why Mackie and I say this is because I think it gives us a new connection to the planet that we have, to our part of the planet that we should just be custodians of. But in the way that our society does it, you've got to buy it. Who you really giving the money to? I don't know. Somebody, the government, I don't know. Anyway, the banks. Would you want to give money to the banks? So Mackie and I, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and where I'm from, it's the Darkinjung people, and where Mackie's from, and he rolls his tongue when he rolls his R's, but it's our Garuk people. And we pay respects to elders past, present, and future. But I also add this, and it's, let us remember that beneath our houses, beneath our feet, the concrete, the roads, the buildings, and lands, there have been stories that have been passed down for over 240,000 generations of humans. Now, I think they did a hell of a better of a job looking after this planet than we've done in the last 200. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense to you. The reason why it looked like it did before is because they took care of it. We think taking care of it is putting down these roads, putting down these houses, doing freeways, these huge buildings, everything, because concrete over the top of it is the way we think. And once we concrete over the top, then hey, that's a building. Oh wow, isn't that a good building? But for the most part, what I see is people attempting in their own little garden control over nature. That's all it is. It's only control. It's a control freak thing where people have to control the plants in their own yard for some reason. Because they haven't got control over their lives anywhere else, maybe, I don't know. I always thought that was the reason why people watch soap operas. And then I watched the soap opera and I went, oh, I think if I watch too much more, there's something to get hooked on it. And there was 6 years of Bold and the Beautiful because I was on shift work and I would eat cereal watching it, going to my shift work. So, who am I to complain? Well, tonight's show without Meccy, it may seem long if you don't know who I am, but with my history and hopefully my communication ability, we might be able to get through this. And today for me, I think it's got 3 or 4 things attached to it. Let's count them off and see how many we get to. Here for me, this is Easter Sunday. That's 1. It's the 1st of the month for us in Australia. That's 2 things. So it's the 1st of April. It's also April Fool's Day. That's another one. And it's also my birthday. Yeah. Crowd goes wild. So, well, the crowd didn't go wild. I had some friends over and we've enjoyed a nice lunch. I think it was roast pork with crackling and sausages for the kids and a bunch of really nice salads. My partner, she makes a great potato salad, and she started cooking like it 6 o'clock in the morning, and I did the roast on the barbecue. That was really good. It was like maybe 18 inches long. It was this wrapped roast. Very nice. If you're not into pork, that's good. Good for you. I think lamb has been decided to be the only thing that all of the people on the world can unify themselves and say that they don't disagree with eating lamb. There was a recent promotion, an advert that was there advertising lamb, and it was a very funny ad, and it had all of the religious people from around the world. Each one of them was represented at the table, at this dinner table, and they're all deciding what they're going to eat. And it was decided lamb was the one. And so it's a tremendous. Lamb is great, although we didn't have lamb today, but very nice. So don't hate me. It's all good. And if you hear any talk in the background, it's going to be kids transiting past the entry to my studio. They know the on-air light is on, but my guests have a hard time, I think, controlling themselves. It's a lot of fun, and don't get me wrong, love my friends, and you should be building a community of friends. You never know what's going to happen. Now, this week has been an extraordinary week of news and things happening generally. So, from a local Australian point of view, and I don't know where you are, if you're anywhere on the planet and you've heard anything about this ball tampering in the cricket, my goodness, that's riled people up. It's riled people up so bad that they're, willing to lose friends over it. This is just a guy who, it looked to me like he pressed some dirt onto the ball. I don't care, playing South Africa it was. Or that he rubbed the side of it with some sandpaper. Now, they've declared the second one as the actual fault, but they do a close-up, and he's pressing something into the side of it. Who knows, right? And then tries to hide the evidence into his undies, of all places. Great. And it's all captured on TV, so You know, it's like the game wasn't televised or something. I don't know. But anyway, that apparently he discussed it. What can we do? Because the pitch is no good. Whatever the background story, who cares? I don't really care. It's someone else's game of sport, and you know what they did in that game is up to them. If they let the team down, they'll let the team down. If they let the country down, I really find that hard to believe, because it's just a game of cricket in South Africa. Who cares? But don't hate me if you're a big fan of cricket. Don't hate me. I just think it's their game. They're playing it. If they want to let themselves down, fine. Will it be something that guy's going to think about for the rest of his life? Yeah, because he's lost sponsorship. He's no longer captain of the team. He's going to have a really hard time trying to earn his cred back again afterwards. Is that more important? I think that's more important. That this guy now has a new journey that he has to try and climb out of the hole he made. And I respect him when he comes out of that hole. Do I respect him now? Well, he's a cheat now. He cheated a little bit on a game. He wasn't playing against me. I'd have a stronger opinion. But, you know, the people on the other team, would they forgive him? Maybe they should ask them. And maybe he should pay his penance, right? Religious day, that's why I said penance. Sort of like a segue. Anyway, my point is, why did the Nation, frontline news, right, by the way, in Australia, frontline headline news, ran for days and days. Why aren't people as upset when a politician cheats? Why aren't people so upset? Why isn't the Nation upset when they squander funds? Why is the nation, the country, upset with a politician when they don't do what they promised, which is a lie, to get into power? So they stand on a particular topic. I don't care what it is, and I'm not going to bring any other current politicians into line and remind them what they should be doing. But it doesn't matter what it was, right? If they don't do what they promised to do and they were voted in because of that, they should be booted out. But no one seems to care. But hey, a guy scrapes some sandpaper on the side of a game of cricket against another country. Wow. Everyone's got an opinion on it. They wanted to fire the head of the Australian cricket. What's he got to do with it? That guy did it. Did he discuss it with the head of cricket? No. Oh, but the argument is, oh, you know what, that it's systemic. Means that everyone's doing it beneath that guy, and he must have known. What? This twit, I said twit, no other words, twit, just decided to do it, right? He decided to make the ball a little bit more interesting after he bowls it, so it behaves a little differently, so that it's not the same old, and the batter is going to have maybe a little bit more randomosity. The ball's going to behave in a slightly different way, but who cares? Did they win? No. So it didn't work. I'm not saying that if it worked, I'd be okay with it. I'm just saying my care factor is almost zero. It's actually minus 0.1 or something, right? I don't even care so much about the guy or what he did. I care that the people of Australia care more about that than the Prime Minister promising to do something and failing entirely on it. In fact, our current Prime Minister sacked the last Prime Minister of the same party, because we can do that here, because 30 consecutive opinion polls were negative. Guess how, if I ask you to guess how many consecutive polls the current Prime Minister has as positive? None. In fact, 29 of them are all negative. So should he, the big question is, should this fellow, the current Prime Minister of Australia, step down if he reaches that 30 mark, which he made the other one resign because of? Yet, hang on. See, I thought we were in a democracy. See, you vote, we vote for the party, they elect the leader. Who cares? You're supposed to do what you promised, and that's the end of that. So now, what is this, a populist president? What? I don't understand. I really have a hard time with that. I have a hard time with, okay, so the opinion polls didn't work. Are you doing what you're supposed to do? Are you actually doing it? Or not? Are you trending upward? Is it all of the background work finally going to pay off on the next one? All right? Very funny. So, I have to say, that news is done. Done now. Let's see what happens the next time around, right? But segueing to your president in the US of A right now, and I think I can play something in the background while I'm speaking. Oh, I don't know if it's going to work though. Hang on one sec. Let's just see if that happens. I can see if it comes up, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just abandon it. All right, 1 second. Let me see if I push that button and not that one, and I push play. I don't know if you can hear the American anthem, but in the background, there's the American anthem. And sorry for talking out over it if it isn't favourable to you. If you don't believe that I should be talking over it, please message me in the chat room. But otherwise, I should say, your beloved president, President Trump, love him or hate him, and I don't really care, but he's been quoted as saying this week, as it will be hard to unify the country without a major event. What? He said it will be hard to unify the country without a major event. Wow. Now, if you're a conspiracy person like me, if you like to, let's call it conspiracy person. Okay, so if you're an intelligent person who doesn't believe exactly what the mainstream media are telling you, and you'd like to do your own research and discover that maybe what they were telling you wasn't true, that's more like me. Can you hear what they're saying? Thank you very much, Amiga Logos. There was actually the US anthem playing beneath there, the old Stars and Stripes. All right. Okay, so it will be hard to unify the country without a major event. I'm a little concerned what that major event would be. And now I'm going to invite you to call in if you wish to ponder this as a round table, and we can talk about the kinds of things that might unify the US of A, as a major event. I mean, because we've had a couple little blips on the radar. You know, there's been a couple of school shootings and a couple of things here and there. But has there been what you would consider another 9/11? That was meant to be a unifying event. That event was so unifying, despite all of the issues with the publicly made available information. Good on you, Larry Pullett Silverstein and Building 7. Right, not going any further with that. But despite that, look at the raft of stuff that got thrown through your parliament, your politics to become law. Look at the Patriot Act. Look at the way that the military spending is going up. Look at the change in the ability to be able to get future things through. That was the wedge, the thin edge of the wedge. And you're right, Amiga, in the chat room there, Vegas didn't unify anything. So whatever it is has to be bigger than that. That's exactly true. That's what I'm asking. How big do you think this thing is that would have to happen? Imagine if they dropped a nuke on Yellowstone, right? Just saying. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but imagine if they did, and it was like a bunker buster, and it went down as far as it could, and Could you imagine that at least 3 feet of ash across 2/3 of the US that would be as a result of that? A single weapon devastate more than all of the nukes that would be aimed at the US. Crops would fail, transport would fail, the water would be poisonous, transport crops. There's no food for anybody. Yeah. The amount of particles in the air would reduce the sunlight to render any other growing space pretty poor, and the northern hemisphere would have a hard time with that. Not only no road transport, but no air transport for the time being, at least while it was settling. That's an event. But who do you have left to vote? Almost no one. That would be useless. So that's in the scale of too big. That would be too big. If they did a dirty bomb somewhere, and took out maybe an already retired government building somewhere that they pretended was full of people still and still operational. Like one of those the departments that have already moved to Denver Airport facility. Right? Let's just call it Denver. Maybe they moved to Denver already. They could just demolish one of the old buildings and say it was have a dirty bomb or something. Would that be enough? Because they could blame terrorists or something like that, and everyone go, oh, we hate terrorists again, let's bomb somebody. Who were they? And within 20 minutes, you could blame whatever country you wanted and then go to war against them. Would that be unifying? I don't know. See, right now I'm sort of at a loss as to, how big do you have to be for it to be unifying, and to make an impact? And what's the kind of thing that, if they're intending people to be unified, against what? So what's left? Do they need to put some legislation through to calm the waters on something? Or maybe this part of the legislation they want to get through is impossible unless there's an event. In case, what do you think that is? Not just what kind of event. I invite you to call in. I would love someone to call in and we can have a little chat about it. Don't just chat in the chat room, but please do join the chat room anyway, so we can have a little chat. Yes. See, I think Amiga in the chat room agrees with me that that would certainly be way too big. But it's got to be bigger than Vegas and smaller than Yellowstone. Yeah. So another 9/11 event. That's why I went with the dirty bomb, because I think the dirty bomb would affect more people downstream and people would be a little in fear of the wind. When they spray the demon seed, you got to face into the wind, apparently. Yeah. That's what they say. So, wow, okay, so Amiga has put a value on it, saying maybe around about 2,000 people. Is that enough? It might be enough. And maybe there was I just can't imagine it. I keep coming up with things in my head and going, no, I strike them off pretty quickly. I don't want anything to happen. I wish whatever the legislation was that they wanted to get through, they could just try and get it through. Are they talking about gun control? How out of context is this? Is it important? Maybe the unifying the people is a space attack. That seems to work in all the movies, doesn't it? When there's an attack from space, everyone has to get together, enemies side by side, working in the trenches, to come up with a formulated way of defeating the aliens. Those are the kinds of discussions. Let's blue sky it. Who cares how outlandish it might seem? But I know, honestly, call in. And now the call-in number, if you're in the US, is 347-688-2902. And I do hope that you can call in and have a quick chat. Stay as long as you want, as long as we're on topic, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to rush. Maybe, okay, what I'll do, I'll throw some topics out there and you can call in about any of them if you wish. Yeah, you're right. Amiga is talking about Pearl Harbor as well, and that was unifying to get America into the war. But I mean, is there another war they want? I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, so I'm going to bring something else up here, and this one's actually pretty cool. This one is, the information has been collected for the last number of years, and it was finally released this last week just gone. And it was that in Australia, the Aboriginals who arrived here some estimated 60,000 years was possibly up to 150,000 years ago. Pretty much the first peoples on the, that were around, walking around and had free choice to do something, probably came here. And that was probably that far back. But in this study, they only studied back about 30,000 years, given that that's the kind of agreed length of time from the scientific community. However, the rest of everybody else, Mungo Man goes back to 40,000, but he was only a set of bones in the middle of Australia, and he wouldn't have gotten there on the first day. And they think that, it would have taken a couple of, 10 decades, or, tens of thousands of years to migrate down to where Mungo Man was. However, we're saying maybe a little longer than that. But anyway, so the study that has just been released the information saying that there was an original language. So the people arrived in Australia with a language already. So they already had language. But that language, as all languages do, morphs over time. But because the people were so far apart, it became around about 280 to 300 languages in each one of their little tiny pockets of existence, because they were nomadic, but they had a route that they walked around over a given period of time, say every 10 or 20 years, and they would occupy a different little pocket. Now, they were all doing the same thing, and it was circular. And so in some places where it was very bush-like, they would burn the bush in a small pocket, habitate that until it started growing again, and then they would burn another section, and they would live in that. And that was like a rotary crops, for instance. The bush would always stay a particular density. It wouldn't become unruly. They were keeping out foreign species, the ones that don't like fire. All the gum trees, I don't want to get in trouble, most of the gum trees survive by fire. They germinate because of fire. And so what that did, it kept the bush in a natural state. Very nice. And it also meant that all of the animals had to cater for bushfire every once in a while. And on the edge of the bushfire, you were able to eat quite readily from the influx of animals trying to escape the fire. And, you had a barbecue. Right? But anyway, so what they said was, the study was really interesting. I want you to get into the amount of interest that I'm in this, because it'll make sense in a minute. So 30,000 years ago, there was a language, and it diversified into pockets of about 280 to 300 pockets of the same language but changed. Started the same language, morphed into a different language, and because they had this thing called walkabout, where people would leave their tribe and go to the nearing tribe, they were usually teenagers who were all angsty. They would send them off, and they're called walkabout, and they would go cross-contaminate the languages. So languages didn't disperse immediately. It took a long time for that to happen. Now, but they claimed there was a bottleneck event. Another one, separately, just from language, they've determined this, that on the Australian continent, around about 12,000 years ago, which is a really interesting time frame, and that matches all the other time frames, but I'll get to that in a minute. There was a bottleneck event where the language redeveloped from a single language again, which means there was only a single surviving pocket of Aboriginals at the last catastrophe. And then it diversified again into about 280 to 300 different language subsets again. Now, that is such an amazing piece of information that I've discussed this with Meki already off air this week. And this lines up with a major cataclysm possibly the one that was the Great Flood, possibly the one all lined up about 12,000 years ago, possibly the one that was the down tools for all of the stonework across the planet, possibly the same one which was where the large meteor impact off Madagascar and rained fire and water down in India, because it came from the southern sky and burst into the planet's atmosphere, and the meteor would have been so large that it left a 28-mile wide crater on the seafloor, which would have vaporized more than 28 miles radius of water around the outside instantly. 28, say 14 miles of radius of water. Now that 2-mile deep ocean would have rushed in, collapsed, hit itself, and squirted back up into space. That's how ferocious that energy would have been. And even suborbital rainfall, which would have frozen and then rained down for a long time. Now this would have occurred, sloshed backwards and forwards as huge waves, causing a tsunami of 10 miles high, washed over Australia, wiped out all but one surviving language of one surviving mob. They're called mobs here, not tribes, but mob of Aboriginals, who then repopulated the whole of Australia again. Yeah? Does that sound at all relevant? Absolutely. This is another piece of the puzzle that makes this work, makes the same event work across the planet from the same time frame. Now, they were saying, oh, it's the end of the Ice Age. Yeah, so 30,000 years ago, up until 12,000, there was an Ice Age. And that Ice Age, what happened to it? Where'd it go? Well, we're still seeing the retraction from that event. See, Meckie and I are more in the belief that the huge impact that rained down everywhere caused crops to fail, maybe 2 or 3 years of really low light until all the dust dissipated. That was the problem. That was the event. And that cold caused the glaciations, and that they retracted to be reveal, rainforests again, and everything bloomed, and that's that bottleneck event. And that's why we have a bottleneck event there. That's why all of that stonemasonry disappeared, because you talk to anyone and say, well, yeah, they go, oh, pyramids, yeah, we built them. I'm Egyptian, we must have built them. I'm not Egyptian, but they say that. All right then, so build me another one. Oh, I don't know, can't remember. It was all a while ago. But you said your people build it, right? Yeah, cool. Show me another example where they built the same masonry. Can't. So we didn't build like that anymore. That was the old way of doing it. What's the new way? I mean, it's haphazard way where it just falls apart after a while. Yeah, that way. Yeah. What about in South America? The same thing. Same kind of rocks. The old rocks. The ones that all the other places were built on top of. Yeah, those. So you mine? Yeah. Yeah, I mine. Did you say you built these? Yeah. Actually, yeah, we did. Right. So can you build another one? Nah. Why not? Can't remember how to do it. Why does no culture understand what it took and have the tools and the knowledge to build any of this stonework anymore? Because it's gone. It's gone. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Why? How could you move such big stones? Dunno. We did, but look at the building. You're looking at the building? Yeah, I'm looking at the building. So wonderful stonework. Oh, mate, that stonework's fantastic. Well, we forgot how to do it. But isn't it great? Love it. You'll see examples all around the world. Apparently we all knew how to do it then. I love that. I love that part. That everyone everywhere across the planet forgot how to do it. I mean, you can't really forget. I mean, you look at the wall and you go, that's some fine stonework right there. I can't even get a cigarette paper in there. How old do you say it is? Oh, it's thousands of years, mate. Thousands. All right, okay. So, make me another one. Can't. So this Aboriginal language thing fits into our hypothesis about this cataclysms. The cataclysms that reoccur. There's always one every 10,000 or so years, there's one, and it takes us back to the Stone Age again. Now, this winds into the Elon Musk story of him wanting people on Mars. And some argue, rightfully, that, we're still a little way, it's still a little way maybe beyond our technology. It's a little beyond where we're at right now. I mean, you've got to question it. It's healthy to question, so why not question it? Why not? If it's a little beyond our technology, then Elon, why would we go now? And his answer is to protect the human species against a cataclysm, against maybe World War III, he says. That's his cataclysm, is World War III. But I think his cataclysm works really well in with our hypothesis and something that he knows about, which is more than likely, do we have $1 billion? I don't. If any listener has $1 billion, I'd like maybe, I don't know, I'd take 500K a year, and then I'd be really happy, and I wouldn't have to ever mention again, just saying. Right. But if you want me on your payroll, happy to support you, happy to completely support you if you tell me what's going on, and then I'll never mention it. And then obviously I'll have to still do the show, because then people would know that I had this show where I talked about it, and so you have to let me keep doing the show. But then what am I going to do? My dilemma would be so bad I'd probably kill myself. No, I wouldn't, actually. That just gives someone an excuse to kill me and then say, look, he must have known. But so Elon Musk is saying we have to put people on Mars, even though it's a little premature. Let's just do it anyway. But what date? Just arbitrarily. I can't even say it. In another way, Elon, why choose such an arbitrary date as 2023? Because, I mean, that's pretty precise, isn't it? It's like not 2020-ish or in the 2020s sometime, or maybe 2030. No, it's 2023. I want to have and his plan is to have a fully established base there, fully established, fully working, absolutely 100% operational, and have like 1 million people there or something. Wow. But that's not very far away. It's 5 years. Good luck with that. 5 years. I mean, look, if he's the kind of guy that can do it, fantastic. I'm not stopping him. I'd love to be part of it. I'd love to do a broadcast from there. That'd be great. As long as the Earth's internet and the Mars internet, which probably work anyway, it's all the same thing. Or if you can get there just with the jump room, I'd love to do that too. Right? Then I can just jump back here and do my show and then go back there again. So why 2023? Well, if you do your maths, 2023 DA14 is to return. And it keyholed years back in 2012. It keyholed, and for the next pass will be an impact. They know where it's going to impact, they know, but they just don't want to tell us. And I've got some audio from a planetary scientist who twice makes the Freudian slip during the interview, where he says, rather than saying on the next pass or the next orbit, he says the next impact. And then he backtracks his way back out of that conversation, attempting to cover his tracks and say, the data's a bit thin and we can't tell whether the next pass will be an impact or not. But then Freudianly, he suggests twice in the same interview, minutes apart, that the next pass is an impact. Now, DA14 wasn't big enough to destroy the planet. It won't crack it in half. It's not going to, cause, like, you pull the plug out of the bottom of the ocean and all the ocean runs away. None of that. All that's going to happen is it's going to be big enough to be like a city killer. If it landed in the middle of LA, probably 10-mile wide destruction and like a single massive nuke, right? Except not nuclear, probably iron, and there'd be raining iron and there'd be fires downwind or down trail in the injector trail, there'd be fires breaking out, hours later still from falling molten debris. The rock debris would be molten, the iron would be molten, and you might very well be, up for, maybe $200,000-300,000 worth of iron landing in your property. You could sell it. Pretty cool. However, so DA14 is one thing, to have a fully established base on Mars so that we can survive apocalypse. Now, what he wants to actually reduce, because it's one thing to survive it, but who cares if there's no humans on the planet here and there's only humans on Mars? How quickly can you get those humans back here to fix it? Because remember, if there's any survivors here, they're going to eat each other, right? If there's any survivors here, they'll have a fight to the top. The king of the hill is what we call it. So the king of the hill will be taken out by those people wanting to be the king of the hill until there's no more people to be king of the hill except for the last person. And then your fight was useless because there's no other people. Makes sense? That makes sense to you. So this is the thing. He wants to reduce his effort, all of the effort and all the billions of dollars he wants to push onto this. His lazy billion in his pocket, burning a hole in his pocket, he wants to throw onto this project to just reduce that period, which was called, the dark, what's it called? Oh, like the bit between the Stone Age when you've got swords. Oh, not the dark, what's it called? Oh my goodness. Whatever it's called. That period between your economy growing again, starting from scratch, and when you've decided to be just warring nations with swords and shields, and the Dark Ages, thank you. So the Dark Ages, he wants to reduce the amount of time we're in the Dark Ages for. Okay, so that means, to boil it down, we're only going to Mars because of a cataclysm. So, and he's only going there to reduce the amount of Dark Ages that we have. Wow. In a return rocket, bring people back. Thank you very much, Amiga. So, yeah, to bring people back to Earth to repopulate it with technology so we're no longer in the Dark Ages. What? So if no one else cottoned on to that, it was all within a 20-minute interview. If no one else on the planet cares that we're all going to die, except for those that live on Mars, because the rest of us will be in the Dark Ages and eat each other, right? How can it just be me that saw that? That's what he said. That's the motive, that's the angle, that's the slant, that's the only reason he's doing it. And why are all the other companies jumping on the bandwagon? Like, not just SpaceX, right? There's the French mob, and there's the one that wants to do a TV reality show to get people there, to find the people they want to send there, while they don't fit the psychological profile of the person you want to sit next to, all the way there for those months. I don't know, 8-10 months or whatever it is. In a 4 meter by 4 meter cube, you can live the rest of your life with this person who, the moment you get into the spaceship, goes, like the planet's red, and you go, yeah, the planet's red. We're just about to take off. Just don't talk to me for a while, okay? Oh, red, I love red. Red's great. Red's my favorite color. In fact, if I could have everything, it would be red. I'm wearing red shoes. What are you talking about? I don't know about red. Don't tell me red. I don't care about red. Red's iron oxide, right? Oh, iron. Oh, I love heavy metal. I love the band Red. Sing. They're going to find a way of talking about red the entire way. If you haven't been on a long distance flight for like 17 hours with the kid in front of you that wants to play peekaboo, right, for 17 hours, imagine what it would be like living the rest of your life, someone that was voted on there from a reality show by 12-year-old girls because they're the ones who tend to vote more in reality shows. So you're going to get like a Kim Kardashian lookalike, because that's who they all like. Possibly with red hair. That'd be funny. You know, my hair's red. Yeah, I think I guessed that. Yeah. For the rest of your life. Yeah. That could be tough. In a 4x4 meter cube where you can't even go outside and breathe the air anyway. So you may as well just go to the moon. The moon could be good. Oh, but Elon's, ditches the moon. No, that's probably not going to be survivable. All right. So if you can't go outside anyway, why not the moon? What's the point? What would the point of flying further away? For safety reasons. Right. So maybe this meteor impact is going to cause more damage. Maybe there might be debris going up into orbit so far so that it collides with the moon. Maybe. See, the reason why I brought all this up is because we're not part of that discussion. You and me. You, the listener, me, a radio host. We're not part of that discussion, the top level discussion about why. Have you ever worked at a company maybe that took over another company, and those staff at the new company were never told that buying of the company was meant when their job's going to get caught and they're all going to get fired or made redundant or something? They weren't told that until the day that it became important to them. The day that HR said, this is the last day we can wait, we have to tell them now, which gives them legally, 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months or whatever the laws are in your country, the minimum amount of time we can inform the staff that they're going to be made redundant. But they knew about that before they bought the company, the next company, which would have given those staff ample time to get out, ample time to find their new employment somewhere, because they don't care. The reason why they don't tell you is they don't care. Where the meat they're grilling on the barbecue. I said a barbecue, so everything's going to be barbecue related today. I'm so sorry. And that roast pork was really nice. The crackling was tremendous. I didn't have applesauce though. Applesauce and pork were just made to go together. And if you don't like pork, just picture think I'm talking about rosemary and lamb, because they go together really well too. And imagine living in a country that only had rosemary and no lamb, or conversely, a country that only had lamb and no rosemary. You would have missed out, right? It's like baking a banana with chocolate pieces in it wrapped in foil inside your barbecue. Oh, there's another barbecue. Now, so just taking it back, because we're not part of that discussion and we'll never be part of it, this is a high-level billionaire kind of government to billionaire kind of discussion where only the top echelon of people would ever know about it. If you could guess what's happening in advance, would you act? Would you act upon it? Would you act upon the knowledge that you might have gained? Probably, but is there anything really we can do? Well, you might be able to survive the impact, if it was an impact, if DA14 hit us in 2023. We might be able to avoid the impact. That's pretty good. That's a start. If you're not in the immediate zone, as long as you can survive the eating of people, part of that, and the economy collapse, and maybe the power grids go down because no one goes to work anymore because they're more concerned about their families' welfare and safety and hunger needs. Those things happen. They happen really quickly, within weeks of a major event. And then no one knows how to start the power grid back up again. I'm sorry, all my shows when I'm on my own tend to focus around the same kind of thing. And this really is, and it all comes down to prepping. You just need to be prepared. And I mentioned before, and I'm not getting any revenue from Costco, but at Costco offer different level packs for you to purchase, so you can just fill up your garage. You're done. One purchase arrives like on pallets, right? And you just put the pallet in, and you would start eating from the front of the pallet to the end of the pallet, and you would buy another pallet so that you're just eating those food sources, and the new one comes in is now going to be the one that lasts the longest. You know what I mean? That way you can survive. That way, if no one else knows that that's what that thing is, it just arrives on a pallet, it goes in your garage, and you didn't have to cook it. You see, I fear that if you started a fire to cook your food outside because there's no electricity, or something similar, that people who are really hungry would see that and assume that you are cooking food and come to take it from you. So you really want to try and eat things that don't, canned goods and stuff, just grind the can on some concrete until it starts leaking and then pull the top off it. No, you even need a can opener, right? Then you eat the contents and you can move on to the next thing. If you could do that while the people are all eating each other until everyone sort of gets sensible about their survival, you're going to make it. That's the thing that allows you to make it. So, look, on the other side of the break, I wanted to mention, and I really do want someone to call in. So, BB or OL, who you are, Buddha or Amiga, if you want to call in after the break, please do, because I want to talk about the China Skylab that's going to crash on Monday. Because I think that's really important for people who might be in the possible debris zone of that. Because we had Skylab, but maybe you guys, something else is coming for you. Look, the music's going to start in a minute. I do hope that you're not just listening, but you want to do something about this. I'm hoping that what you're able to do is determine that if you're not already preparing for some kind of problem, that you prepare for all of them. Not just an earthquake, not just World War III, not just a massive impact, not just the economy collapse, not just there being a massive earthquake somewhere or people who live in a tornado zone, prepare. They build a bunker. They've got a basement, a storm shelter, sort of called different things. You do that, you prepare, you don't have to worry about it, no more fear. You just have an action plan and you act upon that plan when it comes, and you're the smart ones. That's what you end up being. The reason why I mentioned this is because if you're a particularly religious person, and I heard them talking about it on the previous show, and that was the Pope said that there's no hell. Yeah, he said that. And yeah, it's made up. And yeah, it's there just to control the masses. Yeah, it's there just to make sure that you fear something, so it instills fear. That's what it does. But we don't want any fear. Take the time during the break to donate to the station, and I'll talk to you immediately afterwards with the China Skylab crash. Don't forget, this is Shiny Side Out with Dave.
To express them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Back with David Maker's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener supported station on the net. How good is that? I'm still enjoying it. I enjoy every minute. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5.95 a month. That is crazy. That's a cup of coffee. It is where I get them from. I get a double, large, flat white with one. If you want to buy me one. Anyway, I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today. We're glad you're on board. We hope your transition is easy from the MSM or the mainstream media into an alternative media of sorts, I suppose you could call us. We're able to identify the slant usually in a story and see the detail which is really trying to be advised or, propagated or promulgated. And that is an important part of being able to take off your rose-coloured glasses and see the world for what it is. Or you put the sunglasses on as per that movie from the 80s, where you can see the world as it really is. That way, at least, if you're looking at the same story from multiple sources, you can gain some, that little nugget of information from the story that maybe is unique across all of them. And when I say unique across all, I mean it's been mentioned here or there, but maybe in a different way. Something's really important. If you're a police officer, maybe interviewing people in a traffic accident, you'll hear 3 or 4 different stories, and you have to try to make sense of what it is that actually happened. And you've got some physical evidence, maybe some screech marks and some car damage, but it's not always apparent the actual event that occurred. And by gathering all the information together, then you can make a reasonable assessment. Now, this is the hard part, of course. Hard part. When you're doing this with the mainstream media, it might be the same news story just wrapped in another phrase or a couple of changes. Maybe just a tear off of the Reuters feed. That's an old thing that we used to talk about. This is the thing. It's difficult to determine. You hope to try and find the original source of the news item. You can use the Wayback Machine if you have to, if it's, greetings. Very nice, pommel horse. So look, this is shown at 316. That's what it is. Shiny side out. Mecky's not available to be on the show today. This is Easter Sunday here, so he's doing the family thing. It's my birthday today, so I had a friends and family over here, so I've had a really nice lunch. I appreciate my long-suffering partner. She's tremendous. I cooked the roast I heated the barbecue up. It's the one with the closing lid. It's a big, 6-burner thing. And I put the temperature up to where she wanted. She controlled when it was in and when it was out. I didn't cook it. I can't claim that. I just cooked some sausages afterwards. Now, what I was trying to get people to do before the end of the break was advise you that I'd like to better talk about anything that I've mentioned, anything that the Shiny Side Out stands for, anything we've ever talked about, ever. I hope you can comply, ring up the station, be part of this show tonight with me. I'd like to have a round table. Some topics that we've mentioned so far is what would be a major event that would unify the US today? What would it be? And what would be do you think would be the likely agenda that would prompt such a call from the President of the United States that he seemed to be in a minority for? Because a major event to get unity for what is the question. So you can ring up and suggest some ideas there. That would be fantastic if you can. Next, if you wanted to have any input on or talk about the Skylab, the China Skylab. I know it's not called Skylab, but didn't we all have a Skylab in our day? And it says that it's going to fly over Malaysia and come crashing down, raining debris downward into the Pacific Ocean because the space station is moving in its orbit across the equator towards the north. Yeah, all right, if that's what's going to happen. Then I'll let you believe that. It looks like that. It could land a little bit in China. Could. Depends on the trajectory. So we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see, I suspect, because UTC time is 4:15, and I think we're a couple of hours in front of that. So it could be happening right now. Wouldn't that be cool? I just hope no one's hurt. The other thing that I was going to bring up, which I think was a greater story, and this is the Russian ex, spy who and his daughter who are in hospital, not deceased, but obviously having issues as a result of a nerve agent, which it seems now that they were exposed to when they were at their house already. So they were exposed there, then went out and started really having some hard time with it outside. But of course that poison, the nerve agent, matches the exact one that was used, I think, in the 80s from Russia. So whether or not someone just had it in their lab or something, or maybe he had it at home. And his daughter goes, "Hey, Dad, what's this thing on the shelf?" And he goes, No, I don't know. Don't open that. Oh, I've already opened it. Uh-oh. Close it quick, we'll be right. I don't know. But they're blaming Russia so hard on this thing, right? So Putin's just won another election. He's back in. And then, the US are expelling the Russian embassy staff, and then everyone else is now on the same bandwagon. They're all doing the same thing. Even Australia. Let's get our 2 diplomats, the Russian diplomats, let's kick them out of the country. No longer welcome here. Thank you very much. Okay. So, how bad is that? Last week I said I don't think Russia is our enemy. Was I wrong? How wrong was that? The media is playing him to be so evil and twisted and unwilling to back down. I mean, just got voted in again. So his people tend to love him, or there's guns to everyone's heads. I don't know how it works over there. Or the whole thing's fake. Who knows? Right? I thought it was a democracy. Right? I thought everyone lived in it. When I grew up, I had such rose-colored glasses. I thought the whole world was fine. And it only ever seems to be getting worse. I thought we were going really well. In the 80s, fantastic. 90s, grunge was out and alternative music was the thing. You didn't want to go mainstream music because that was just, they put the money in the machine, pull the handle like a poker machine, and out comes a CD with a song on it. So manufactured. And the alternate underground scene was the best one. All the best music was coming from them. But now, the media is this plastic media. You pull the handle, out comes some fluff story about rubbish, right? Who cares? Or it's so sidetracked the nation, like our ball tampering thing, that no other story could be floated or have floated to the top. It was the top story. In fact, it was like half the news story. Ridiculous. Ball tampering. Who cares? It's a game. It should be the last 5 minutes of the news right before the weather, as usual. Have real stories there. But no, the media tell us what we need to know because they tell us that we need to know it. Why? Because advertisers pay for the advertising time. And the government is pushing the advertisers and the media to tell us what we need to know. All right. So, I have to tell you that I don't have a mistrust of the media. I just know where I'm guessing, presuming, I suppose, at best, where they're coming from and why they're giving us the message that they're giving us. That's I think the analytical brain is attempting to work out what it is that their agenda is to push us to the place they're pushing us so that we can fight back with what they want us to fight back with to be able to pass the thing they want to do. Because inevitably, they wanted to do that in the first place. And that is the reason why Trump says it will be hard to unify the country without a major event. There's something that they want to do. It's not unifying the country. It's something they need to achieve, and they can't do it without a unifying experience to get voter sway for populist belief that we should act on something. 9/11, same deal. That's what they did there. Well, someone did it. For some reason. Building 7. So, just look at Building 7. Don't look everywhere else, just Building 7, and that'll give you all your answers. Yeah. So, not the Pennsylvania slope where there's already a cut in the soil where they claimed that the plane hit, which was actually the site of a previous plane crash. But this plane crash, filled with people, had no debris. No debris, no suitcases, nothing. No bits of clothing. No seats, no tail, no engines, no cockpit, no flight recorders. And then they put a big screen around the outside and started bringing huge bags so big, just like at the Pentagon. Bags so large that they looked like they were carrying stuff in to a scene where there was nothing, and then pulling stuff out without the bags. Wow, crazy. It's like going to a child's birthday party with, toys in wrapped toys, and then you come home with the bags folded up. Anyway, so what's the reason for antagonizing the hell out of Russia right now? Did he really do it? Do you think Putin had anything to do with it? I think he'd been in England for 20 years, this bloke, right? A double agent. Is America right now trying to assassinate Snowden in Russia? Good luck with that. So this is the kind of thing that I'm more trying to find out what their true motive is. I don't think it's in retaliation of anything. I don't think it's just because Putin said, all right, this is what Putin said. He said, okay. In Russian, of course. I don't do a good Russian accent. But he says, I sound more like Boris and Natasha. He said, okay, you're claiming that I'm at fault. All right, so provide the evidence. I can't do that. All right. What about a sample of the biological agent that you said that I used or was from us? Why don't you? This is Putin. Why don't to England? Please, if you provide that to us, we can determine it for ourselves. If I'm guilty of something, isn't the case across the planet that you need to provide evidence that supports your argument? And that's been withheld. If there is any at all. Who even knows if this guy is real? I don't know. Is he really dead? Is he just moved to Australia like everyone else? Is this the false flag? We all seem to be acting on it like it's real. All the countries all are participating in the kicking out of the Russian diplomats from the embassies and closing embassies. Seems to be vigorously fought to make something happen. I mean, honestly, do we want this much heat? I love that quote from Ferris Bueller. I can do the heat. The heat's okay. I can stand that much heat. I don't think you want that kind of heat. Why are we playing this game? I mean, really? Do you mean no one's assassinated anyone before? No, there's a little column in the paper that says, oh, some dude, blah, 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 whatever, died. But that might have been an assassination. They have captured spies all the time. And they do these trade deals where they'll happily trade their top spies for the other people's top spies because they got caught. It happens. I mean, this stuff is real. The Bourne series of films is so real that you just wouldn't know just how. You'd be surprised to find out how real it was. Not that it's that guy doing it, right? But the spy ring is real. The spy games are real. The whole thing is real, and this is just one of those tips of the iceberg that says it's all real. And unless, of course, this whole thing is all about release of a brand new 007 movie. I don't know. Because it doesn't reek of Hollywood. You know, something happens in England, suddenly everyone's putting their hands in the air and go, oh, we don't want Russia anymore. Can't stand Russia. No, Russia's bad. They've always been bad, don't you know? Crazy. Pomerhorse says that they eat lots of donuts at the embassies. That's really funny. Now, I implore you, please call in. Call in. I'd love to have a discussion with anyone. Pretty much about anything, because I have an opinion on pretty much everything. Got some knowledge in everything. So if you can, let's try some of that. They're talking about this this satellite coming down a lot, and there's some video coming out at the moment. It can't be far away. Surely it can't be far away. Now, as we run live, I'll see if I can find a live stream of it. So I've got to get the actual name of the satellite, which is the Tiangong real-time tracking. Here we go. Oh, don't you dare start leeching me for my email address. Let's see. There's a re-entry dashboard. That's good. That's a start. All right, it looks like it's still in the air. It's red. I can see the line. It's currently, I think it looks like it's flying on its last pass. No, this is not the last pass. It's going to go over like Panama or something right now. No, it's still a ways away, but I'll keep that live. I'll keep it up just so I can have a look. That's pretty neat. Oh, you know, I think lamenting. Maybe I was just reminiscing. I'll go with reminiscing. I was reminiscing the other day about the early days of the internet and how, you know, Mecca and I were talking. You know, you have to go to the library, and then it was only the approved documents that were going to be there anyway, and so you're really only sifting through the approved dialogue, so to speak, of the. And it's like every once in a while there'd be a fictional writer who would write a piece of fiction which was just not non-fiction, so they could get it through. That was all we had. That was it. So, just to add to this thing about the Russian government, they've retaliated by expelling Western diplomats, including 2 Australians, because we expelled 2 of their people. We only had 2, but these are only the people at the. This is what gets me, right? It irks me. The people they're expelling are only the official people working as diplomats at the embassies. What about all the sleepers? Surely there's sleepers in everyone's town. I mean, surely, right? That's a thing, isn't it? The thing that you get sleepers when you make people that would just, you know, the phone rings and they pick the phone up and then they say something like, you know, Rosebud, and hang the phone up, and that person, their programming comes to life and they have to act on it. Chocolate, Scooby snacks, loathe coconut. Poor batsman. Now, sure. So I'm asking someone to call in 347-688-2902 if you're in the US, and if you've tried and it doesn't work, message me in the chat room. Otherwise, you may call in on 347-688-2912. That's my Skype number, but only do it when I'm on air. Otherwise, I have it all turned off, so you can't annoy me with the phone ringing incessantly. So bear with me. All right. Okay, so where does all this leave us? Do you think there's a possibility of an escalation of this silly tit-for-tat foreign affairs bureaucracy that's just kicking each other out of each other's countries? Because typically this was what you did before you went to war. So you went down these paths. It was never a big surprise. Most wars are planned. Most of them were planned. People knew what was going on. Military had their leave cancelled. The bigwigs knew they had to order materials. I mean, these things, it's not a guessing game. It's only a guessing game if you don't know. So where are we at with it? See, I always figured, and don't get me wrong, I don't hate anybody, right? I really don't. But I always thought that the machine-like takeover of the planet from a business sense would be China. I would say from my perspective, the Chinese just seem like the kind of people that would want to be part of it monetarily. And then it would turn into an ownership game. Now, if you're playing a game, a strategy game where resources gives you financial gain, and it's like a city builder where you build your city up and you mine all the resources and then you go into other people's town and you attack them or something. The first thing you do is mine the other people's resources. So there you've got theirs, and then yours, you leave yours to last. Because by then the map is encroached upon and you can't mine their resources anymore. They get less of it. They build up their build peak, if you like to plot it, if you're a statistics kind of person, if you love numbers and graphs, you find that they would be able to build just as fast as you can, and then they taper right off. Oh, I've got a call in. Hang on a second, let me see. It's going to take a while to pop up on my screen. Oh, good old SJ. I'll drag you in, buddy. Hang on a second. I'll drag in SJ. He has been group call. There we go. Let's see. Sometimes it takes a moment to connect. Yeah, it does take a moment. Well, we'll just let that go. He'll pick up in a sec. So, oh, I forgot where I was now. Now I'm really relying on this connecting. Let me see, what does it say? All right. So yeah, my phone gives me grief. I should disconnect it. To disconnect my phone before I start up. 1 second. Because it hijacks the call and it's really hard to get it back out of there. There's an ongoing call. Wait a second. I'm just going to hang up the call. Hang up. There we go. All right. So now I might remove him. That's what I'll do. I'll remove him from the call and then I'll do it again. Oh, technology, huh? All right, so I'm adding him back to the call again, and fingers crossed this one works. On my phone, I'll get rid of Skype on here so it's not running anymore. Goodness me. I didn't even know I was running a background. Oh, that doesn't seem to be working either. Oh, SJ, I'm calling you, buddy. Let me see. I've just typed in the chat room, am I back? Can you hear me? Fingers crossed, anyone? Anyone? See if I can play a bit of the station. Oh. There we go. So I know I'm back on air again. Thank you very much. He hit the do not press button. I think that's what he did. No, now it says he's not online. No, maybe he's restarting his Skype or something. All right. Thank you very much, Pommel Horse. If anyone else would care to call in, 347 688 2902, and we'll take caller 50 this time. That's a joke, by the way. Yeah. So, I don't know. Is the geopolitical landscape right now, or fabric, or landscape, whatever you want to call it, has it gone crazy? I think it has. I think it's off the scale. Maybe, I mean, surely we're not just hearing more about it. Maybe you're not just getting the ups and downs. The stock market's losing tons and tons and tons of value. Facebook has been mining your data like mad, like crazy 1820s prospectors. As a result, Twitter and Facebook stocks have collapsed. I know that Zuckerberg was asked some serious questions regarding regarding the breach of 50 million accounts. I mean, that's a lot of accounts. That's a serious amount. Oh, okay, so he's calling back. I'll see if I can get it on the PC. Goodness me. Come on, SJ. Pick it up. Okay, so I've got to do that. I've got to hang it up and then call him back. See if I can call him back on my PC Skype. This is crazy. I mean, who would make technology that did this, right? Surely. Still trying to get him. Oh, I don't want to join the call. Attempting to exit. It still thinks there's a call open to SJ from my phone. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to turn my phone off entirely. That should end it. And then SJ should get a call back from me in the hope that that works. I mean, seriously, how? It can't be that hard, right? Really? Oh, so that's very strange that you should have that. That's okay, Mackie. Man, don't sweat it. It's okay. I got it. Except, of course, that I'm having some issues with the caller, but otherwise we're fine. It's only the last half an hour anyway. Got through 3/4 of it. Poor SJ's trying to call in and it's not working. End call. Oh, I ended the call. But I didn't take him from the... No. Where's my actual call? Ah, so silly. Okay, so if I disappeared and I'm back again, now I know why. That's okay. I said remove person from the group, and that was meant to leave the call with the station on. But now, okay, now I'm putting SJ back in. That should ring his Skype, and he should be right to go. Wow, what a complicated mess this is. Just going to tell him that I'm trying to call him now. Fingers crossed. He picks that one up and we're okay. So look, this is the thing, right? Where are we? Where are we politically? Where are we? What's going on? Why is there so much damned world conflict right now? Is this the thing that the Mayans had warned us about, where we go through the dark rift? Was the dark rift like the negative energy side of the galactic plane? Maybe there's a positive side where everything's awesome, everyone wants to do the right thing, and then there's a negative side where everyone wants to do the wrong thing. Everyone is abrasive to each other, and we've got to get through this part before we can get back to the good part. Because I mean, since 2012, it's gone downhill. I think we have a real hard time. I'm having a hard time with this. No, there's no getting SJ on a call. I really wish he was on. I just don't understand why I can't get him on there. Invite to group call. Let's try it again. Oh well. Anyway, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So, what do you think about it? Ask yourself, what do you think has changed? What do I think has changed? Is the world this crazy place that we live in, really? You know, why should everyone just have borders around them with big walls and say, bugger off? Why? Why did it suddenly become so complicated? Misbehave. I think that was a drag name of a friend of mine. That's funny. I know Misdemeanor was. That's a well-known drag queen. I used to live in a city, and it was we had friends of all denominations. Not saying anyone's right or wrong or bad or good, but I think it gives you a sense of that we should really be ourselves. We really should not be hindered in wanting to be who we are. And if who we are changes through your life, because it surely does. I remember my teen angst period, which I didn't think I had any angst, but everyone else seemed to think I had angst, especially from my parents. I'm not that person anymore. And I just have a whole bunch of knowledge that allows me to make decisions now based on past experience. It's hard to be slingshot into an existence of adulthood, I suppose, right? Without any real basis to make any real good judgment calls, because you're going to fail at least 50% of the time. It's only right or wrong. You don't know they're right or wrong. You just think it's A and B, but one's definitely right and the other one's definitely wrong. Or it swings you in a direction that you hadn't expected, and then you go somewhere else and you're swinging back, and it's an undulating journey of surprise. Because if I asked any one of the listeners, for instance, is where you are now exactly where you thought you'd be? And was it just a glide? Like a pair of roller skates, you put them on and suddenly just all this good stuff went past you and you end up where you are now and you're happy and everything's fantastic. And it's always been fantastic. No, you've swooped around left and right, got speed, lost speed. At least we're past the barbecue topic, and now we've got roller skates, right? You ended up somewhere and then you decided, well, this isn't maybe where I really want to be, and I want to go somewhere else, and you've re-evaluated how you can get there, and you've made attempts to get there, sometimes intentional, sometimes not. But you get there. So, where are we right now geopolitically? And why can't these people who run all these countries get it right? Why is conflict the highest thing on the agenda? If peace isn't ever going to be real, why is conflict the next thing? Why is that the go-to? Why is that the first step? Why is there only two? There's only a brake pedal, there's only a conflict button and a peace button. And the peace button really just has the word peace written on it, but it points to the back of the anger button or the war button, right? So when you press that, they both press. when you press the anger button, it only presses the anger button, right? You press the peace button, it presses both of them because it's not really pushing peace. So why is this all going on? And why is it so damned complicated? I don't know, but for some reason I want donuts. That would make sense if you were in the chat room. I don't know. I can't come up with an answer that's reasonable enough to state. Oh, okay, I've got a caller, add to group call. That seemed to have worked. Bill, can you hear me, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? I can hear you. How you doing, Dave? Hey, good show. Too bad Mecky's not on with you, helping you tonight. But you did fine, and you're doing.
Thanks,
oh, what?
Matt. Mecky says that his bandwidth is so bad where he is, he couldn't even join the call if he wanted to.
Oh, I assumed he was on a trip, like going to an event or something again. Which is a good way to live. I used to go to a lot of them myself, but too bad about SJ. SJ, keep trying. I'm just popping in basically about Russia and
I'd love to get your 2 cents.
Well, one thing I only hope, I actually don't think this is the case. It may be the case, but actually, to go back to the volcano issue, if Russians striking Yosemite and everything, what do you call it? The
Yellowstone.
Well, see, that's Yellowstone. They know, we know that, we know they, like, in other words, we have our personal threats against them and they have their personal threats like that, the same threats to each other. We know where to strike them exactly, and they know where to strike us. And we both have built and buried nuclear bombs all over each other's country. Both know this. We both know this. Our own governments on both sides, the bad sides of both governments, and all governments, have bunches of locations of nukes in strategic places. Most of them are small, suitcase bombs and things like that. But some are pretty big. And one thing I've said here is, one example was years ago, I don't know, maybe 20 now, about 15, 20 years, maybe even a little more. I don't know. I can't remember. But we were caught by the Russians in a bunch of ways. And in this story, this is about one we buried on their grounds in a hill, kind of under a hill or a mountain or something. And they caught us. So they said, just take it out. We're not going to make a big issue out of it. And just get rid of it. And so we kind of did. But before we resealed everything up, we put it back real quick. Kind of snuck it back in there. And that was one of the stories. Since then, again, we admitted it. And I think we got caught talking about it, bragging about it. And, it's out. So, but there are other cases. They have bombs around us, and we have bombs around them. We know how to nuke them from underneath, under the continental shelves, and the same with them, through submarines, through specialty missiles that fly through the water and the ground instead of the air. So we both know this. So we have a war. We have a race going, an arms race. But is it really for the secret possibility to eventually not turn on each other, but to suddenly work together and gang up against China? And there are backdoors. There were backdoors in my time. We were talking their deep black, we're talking to our deep black. And, we were going to work it out. We were working it out. So that's kind of all I really wanted to say, but we can survive a hit at Yellowstone, by the way. We can do it. And it is supposed to blow in the future, but other deep black friends say it's not going to be as bad as they fearmonger. It'll be kind of bad, but it won't do America or the world in. And, it'll be more local. They can't shut it off even with the secret. They can't reduce it or stop it even with the top secret Black Ops weapons and scalar weapons and other methods. It's just too big, they said. It was way bigger than they ever claimed. Now we know it's much bigger. So that's part of the story.
Yeah, the question that I had was, look, I know that I think is it not Patagonia and somewhere else, Uruguay and Australia was the signed agreement for if Yellowstone should blow, that the American population will be dispersed to those countries under an agreement. So I remember Australia was part of it. There was some countries in South America that were also part of that agreement.
Yeah, plus we would take over like the Bahamas, even though there's hardly any space there. I mean, all kinds of things like that as well were included. And we would go to some places in Canada, and yeah, that's pretty much true. I forgot exactly which places, but I do believe one of them is Paraguay. I think Paraguay is one of those. Pretty sure it is. You know, so that's part of it. But they're building dumb bases big enough to let some of the population in, even though they won't tell you that. They mostly did it for themselves, but some of it is for us.
Well, that's interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some good people in there that actually want to open up a bunch of places eventually, and they're talking about the magnetic trains underground openly now, and one reason is because they have enough of what they need, and they're expanding extremely rapidly. So they really don't need a lot of the secret underground trains anymore, some of them, and they're just going to let us have some of them. And some dumb bases, some small dumb bases. They got hundreds of them, thousands across the globe, thousands.
Yeah. You know. I know that Russia had a whole bunch, and I know that China has buried all its military pretty much. So if there was something big that was going to affect everyone unilaterally, then I'm sure that there'd be some refuge found in your local military's underground base for a select few, possibly, because they don't know how many of their own people are going to make it to these same bases, because you may be dispersed yourself in your own country and have not be able to get back to it, and they're going to want a full complement of reasonable people anyway in there if they're going to make an effort to repopulate after whatever was to happen. And so the thing that I lean this on quite heavily is the seed bank. That there's definitely a plan of an event taking place, but you know, when you hear the people publicly and openly talking about it, they all mention World War III rather than there being a cataclysm which is maybe beyond our control. What's your thoughts?
Well, all of the above are supposed to happen, and when I talk of the perfect storm, they expect or plan both a natural perfect storm against us and a created one against us. And they really don't care which, and they'll do both together simultaneously. They're completely ready. They're as ready as at least the elites need to be. Not everyone under them, of course, but most of the ones, everyone they need and everything they personally need. The ones that rule the world, all the countries, the secret interstitial, interconnected underground, they have everything they ever will need, ever, forever. They never, ever will need to come to the surface. They will, and they have plans to clean up all they need to clean up and then to go to space. And they do have supposedly at least some basic space bases out there. And the only problem was creating one, not to survive in as far as structurally or even energy-wise, but not even to worry about cosmic rays. The problem was the reason they started creating the biodomes they said they were going to use on Mars in the future. This happened about 35 years ago, or something like that, right? So about early 80s, late 70s, something like that. And so that's the reason why they needed to keep testing and to make us test for them at our expense, all bio internal. What do you call it when they make an internal environment, an enclosed environment, a self recycling bio cycle,
a bio
sphere.
Sphere, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, ecosystem, right? They see that was the problem. That was the problem. The big problem wasn't even so much that. The first ones were failures. But they knew there was going to be cosmic rays and radioactivity and radio waves and everything in space also mutating the seeds and screwing things up.
That's a good point.
That's the hindrance.
Because we can't currently wrap enough shielding around anything in space to survive any of the cosmic radiation.
The secret...
It's not feasibly... It's impractical because it's too expensive to launch it.
Well, no, not anymore. It's not to do that anymore with normal technology. Absolutely, it's way too expensive by far. But with the secret technology, it's actually quite easy, and they've been doing it gradually for years on purpose. Slow, a little at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time. They send up normal rockets. They're not always normal rockets. They have more on them than they're saying.
Oh yeah.
And they have more of an ability. They have more of an ability to lift the extra secret weight in other ways other than the fire you see below it. So, they've been doing it slowly, and some of it we call UFOs because some were just literally rockets being launched. So they made some space stations. I suspect they could be massive, but the elite only want things for themselves, and they want to keep their own numbers down really low. So only the good, reliable stuff will go to them. I know we're just about to run out of time. If SJ makes it on, I'll just immediately shut up, let him talk. And of course, it's your show, so jump in anytime. But the biodomes, the continuity of the bio growth structure ecosystem was the only problem to make sure it does not collapse. And I think they've perfected it, and they've perfected storing food anyway. So they are completely ready for World War III, at least the upper echelon, and don't care about anything else. And that's why they're pushing it now.
I'm completely convinced that that's the case. Mekki and I are in 100% agreement that we're just the pawns they don't care about. We're disposable. It doesn't really matter to them anymore, right? Our lives don't matter. And every once in a while, there's a huge culling where there's another war and they just send us to the grinder. Well, the 7.7 billion is encroaching. I think that's another point at which they're going to have to act. So I predict it's also soon. Whenever that happens to be, what soon means I don't know. But they were talking about at the end of the games that we're currently on. I think we're almost there or there now. So who knows? I don't know. We're not part of that discussion.
Right, but I know one thing. One of the discussions was the real amount of souls and people actually born on Earth, all the secret slaves they have in the MK Ultra secret society people, all the people that were born they didn't let you know, all the clones they made and didn't let you know, all the fetuses, all the missing people. The real number may be close to 12 or 13 billion. And if that's true, that is what's supposed to trigger the next stage of evolution, because no amount of souls beyond that number can happen without a nuclear war or a complete evolution, supposedly. So that would cause a nuclear war, or they would cause it. People would die accidentally. People would be born dead. It's the guff. That has to do with the whole logic of it anyway. I mean, who knows? I don't really know, but that is some of the secret inside reasoning and information.
Well, the 1,500 unretired pilots that they were looking for to increase from 50 per month to 1,500, that's a clue that something's due.
Yeah.
because why on earth would you suddenly need that many unretired pilots back into the fold, right? There's got to be something.
Right.
It has to be for something, and it's not for training.
Well, Bruce said it. He said the word burnt offering. I mean, we've all implied it, but Bruce said the word. It's also a burnt offering. The more people they cause to die, you get the loosh, and they maintain the power.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's both. So
Yeah, they win on both counts.
yeah, it's crazy. But they plan on taking off in their ultimate space station. The few either way in the future. That's the ultimate plan, to blow up the Earth or let it die, let the sun go, and then they literally leave to deep space and supposedly join the Galactic Empire. And really what it is, it's a space piracy. It's like a space pirates, where the Phoenicians used to fight another colony and make the surviving warriors, to fight for them to go and fight the next country or group, and that is sort of what they're doing supposedly in this galaxy. Sounds science fiction even to me, but that's kind of their plan.
Wow, well, look, I can't argue that someone has a plan. Just, is it a good plan? Is it the one for us? Does it support us? Are you on board with their plan? Because whatever plan
Not their
it
way.
is, I know it's always going to be their way, or the highway, or the death way, or whatever it ends up being. But I just see that there's a ramping up. This thing's going crazy. You know, in one hand, we keep hearing we're getting close to disclosure, which would be just tremendous, right? And this week we had, like, what do they say? More than 100 billion Earth-like planets are out there. So good luck saying no, there isn't any life out there, right? And if you want to live in a little jar, if you want to believe that nothing else exists, good for you, right? So when they land, at least my head won't explode with excitement, right? With disbelief, with it crushing my thought process. I'm accepting of anything that occurs, and I'm all right with it. So this is how hard it is, I think, that we're so bombarded by a particular message that it would then be difficult to think your way out of it. So,
Well, I'm of the belief of the negative version of that supposedly happening. The world was not supposed to be unified, and we're not supposed to join the aliens until this world was under a dictatorship and the Pope would be involved. And then you had the V series, which would have had something like them showing up that way. But thanks, Mecky. Have a good show. I mean, David, how could I say that?
welcome. Hey, it doesn't matter. I didn't say it, but the point is. So then I'm definitely Dave. Enjoy yourselves. Stay tuned for a roundtable with Jer Bear, and catch us next week for Shiny Side Out, show number 317. Take care.